Tom, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast today.
Pleasure.
I am really excited to chat with you more today because it's a weird one. I feel like our businesses have worked together.
Yeah.
Was it COVID? Was it like 2020 when we first started talking? But our businesses have worked together. We've not necessarily had much interaction up until like summer this year, where we were working together a bit more closely. And as we've been working more closely this year, I kind of realised like how amazing it is what you have created and done and from scratch, which I feel like also in a really short period of time. So yeah, as soon as I started the podcast, I was like, I need to talk to Tom because I think I feel like you've gone from 0 to 100 and it just all, yeah, it looks so brilliant in terms of culture, energy and what you're creating. And also, well, I would be interested to ask you this question a bit later in the podcast. It feels like in a market where there's just so many different options as well. And it's, yeah. So, Tom, you're the founder of Wizu Workspace.
That's right.
Is it predominantly in Yorkshire?
Yeah, so we're founded in Leeds.
Leeds.
And we're kind of regional. So basically outside London. We've had a focus on the north. We'll have a national presence in the next 18 months. But our focus today has been on the north. We're kind of founded in Leeds, as I say. Leeds is kind of HQ, its base, but kind of big step out of Leeds was to Glasgow. So
Right.
it was really good fun. And then we've kind of working the way down. So we've got Newcastle, and then we've got sort of Sheffield, Harrogate, and we've just opened up in the Midlands as well. So yeah, it's been a roller coaster, and we're very passionate about the north and about the regions, and that's kind of been a bit of a driving force behind the growth.
Nice. And so was it 2017 that Wizu started?
So we were founded in 2016, myself and John. We sort of just met very randomly, and we just saw this opportunity in flexible workspace, the whole kind of revolution with kind of tech companies doing really cool offices, destination spaces, it's not just like a vanilla environment, old slides and cool stuff going on in space. And we just really saw that flexible workspace destination as opposed to just a functional environment was going to be a thing of the future.
Yeah.
And kind of, we had the idea. We felt that the north was kind of underprovided for. You had all the stuff going on in the south with WeWork and all that kind of stuff.
I was going to say, 'cause I feel like you've done it alongside WeWork blowing up because, like, was it my boyfriend at the time had a WeWork office in Manchester, and I feel like in 2019 it was like everywhere and popping up in all these locations. And
yeah, well, people often say, "How do you describe your business?" And I say, "Well, we're like WeWork, but we work."
I like that.
No, look, I love WeWork. We were very starstruck with WeWork. I mean, much bigger business, fabulous. I really like what they've done. When we set up the business, we had lots of exciting visits to different workspaces, and WeWork was definitely one of the ones that we loved. So we've taken a lot from WeWork, despite the troubles that they've had. We've learned some lessons.
And when your workspaces, they're all sustainable as well. Is that one of the parts?
Yeah, so we've got sustainability is a real focus, I think, because we become part of the supply chain for a whole host of businesses that work under our roof. So we have everybody from what we call like Converse and skateboards. So you're sort of one person that comes in and is hot desking, just started up a business, wants to get out, meet people, work somewhere social. Yeah. All the way up to kind of like big blue chip corporates. And we've we're not a debt funded and venture capital funded business. Everything has been sort of our money and shareholder money. A lot of blood, sweat, and tears. It's a very different way of running a business, and obviously, capital is a huge hurdle in this business because you're effectively setting up a business environment that's furnished, that's internet ready, that looks beautiful. All of that costs a lot, so it's a difficult business to get into. But the kind of journey to that has been. It's been all our cash that's gone in. So
That's
the growth has had to be, we've had to be really strategic and do a lot of hard thinking around how we grow the business.
Yeah, because just to frame that, so from 2016 to now, you've got around 55 staff.
Yeah.
You turnover around about 8 million.
Yeah.
Like, to self-fund that growth and like the investment needed to make the places, and wow, I mean, that must be...
It's been very hard work.
Yeah.
There's been times where it's been very unenjoyable. I suppose that's a bit of a theme here about kind of, how do you keep the fun? But it's also been a real boot camp, because I think, particularly for the North, I think it's a bit of a different approach to starting a business. You're not just going out there. I know this is a bit stereotypical, but I think if you're say in London, which is a bit of its own economy, you can have different mindset where it's like you go out, you fundraise, you use other people's money. I think what I observe with the North, and particularly like Manchester, Leeds, and these kind of big northern cities, is that founders have a bit of a different approach. It's often like doing the hard yards, doing the boot camp, bootstrapping, growing your business. And I think that is reflected actually in what you read in terms of return on investment based on what businesses return in the North versus what businesses return in the South. Because I just think the founders have a bit of a different approach. I think...
How interesting.
Do the hard thinking, do the heavy lifting. And I think that creates a different connection to your business. And scaling is tough when you're funding yourself. So it's relied on us having to be very strategic about locations, make lots of really important decisions, generate cash quickly. I come from a sales background. Actually, the guy that introduced us is a guy called Andy Preston.
Oh my gosh, yes, of course.
So I got into business. I always had a passion for business, but it was Andy Preston that really turned me on to sales, and that's his thing.
Yeah, I
And
totally forgot about that. Yeah, okay.
I went to like a business conference. I'm from Bradford, and Andy was speaking. I just remember listening to him and finding it so fascinating, and just the way he presented sales. I just sort of just fell in love with the whole skill of selling.
Yeah.
And so really our business was built on like really good discipline, like managing cash, being really focused on sales, looking for good people. We just couldn't afford to make big mistakes.
Right. There's no safety net.
There's no safety net, and that's been really tough. So look, we have elements of small amounts of debt, but we don't have sort of like senior bank debt.
Yeah.
We're not, I suppose, being hit by a stick by investors, which means that we can grow at the pace we want. We can open where we want to. And I guess, just referring to WeWork, I guess, having sustainable growth in this sector is really important because it is popular. We're in Manchester. Manchester's a real hotspot for flexible workspace, and you can see it's exploding everywhere. So having your fundamentals, in place and being really, really focused on what you're about, it's really important in this market now.
Yeah. So just prior to us getting started, we were just chatting about prior to founding Wizu, because I'd seen that you had worked at another service office or workspace. Yeah. Just if we just delve into a little bit about that, because you said it was charity based, was it?
Yeah, so I'm going to go one step further back than that. So when I left school at 16, I actually wanted to be a professional musician. I'm a drummer. So I say professional musician, but I was in basically a ska punk band. Right. Okay, so very kind of like unorthodox path to get into what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
So I went from that and sort of like realized that we were never going to make it big. So we had loads of fun and it was amazing. And drumming is something that's always stayed with me, which I think is really important as you're growing a business, is to do the things that make you happy outside of running a business. And kind of went from that, realised that sleeping on people's bedroom floors was not kind of the future that was kind of, not going to be a millionaire, right? We weren't going to be the next Coldplay or whatever. Yeah. And kind of went from that and blagged my way on to a degree, ended up working at this charity. So what was great was that, the charities run like businesses. They have to be entrepreneurial. They have to make things happen. And I got an opportunity. I was in my early 20s to raised some money from European funding, and we built a building, and we occupied a bit of it, but we sublet most of it out.
Oh, right.
And that allowed me to cut my teeth on some real life experience, and helped me, I think, to be a better business owner, because I've actually, learned to be a good employee and learned to be part of an organization, observe good leaders, where things go great, where things gone wrong, understood kind of charities are great at building culture. So took a lot of lessons from that into what I do today. And then kind of the charity had this sort of serviced office that we built, and it kind of just gave me the platform really to do what I'm doing today. So I left there and started Wizu 8 years ago.
And is it via meeting? Is John your business partner? Was it like that was part of the trigger to leave, because you'd had this conversation around, let's start this, let's do this?
I think, like, for as long as I can remember, I've always been interested in sort of business, and in particular sort of finance and money. I'm not a finance guy. I'm more of a creative. That's kind of more my skill set. But I've always been fascinated and always really admired people in business. And when I was about 17, I read a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad. Oh, okay. Which kind of was a bit of a pivotal moment. So I'm not a great avid reader, but I did read this book.
Sat up straight when you realised,
I think it was just about kind of, there's two different approaches, and one is sort of going and being an employee, and one is starting your own business. And there's nothing wrong with either. Neither one is right or wrong. But for me, I just resonated with that kind of growing a business, learning to sell, learning to understand money, learning to understand kind of the world from a slightly different perspective. And so I'd always had that desire. And I think what's interesting is what I observe today is, I think people just want to jump straight into it. Nothing wrong with that. If you've got the opportunity and you think you can do it, go for it. I think for me, what was really useful was being able to actually go and learn skills. And I think your 20s is a really great time to do that. And my dad has always sort of really input into me, like spend your time learning skills. If you do that, you can really build a foundation from which to grow and gain experience. And I think going and working for the charity and doing what I did, look, you're not going to be a millionaire working for a charity, but what I saw was the opportunity to learn skills. People trusted me. I observed really good leadership. And I had some fabulous opportunities, and I just grabbed those with both hands. And really that kind of laid the foundation for me, really, to be able to understand the mechanics of what I do now.
Yeah. And so you started the business in 2017, and just we did chat about this just briefly just before we started. So like, alongside growing Wizu as well, you have got a wife and family, and you've fostered as well, which you said to me. So have you got 2 kids? Is it?
I've got 2 boys, and they are 10 and 14. And when I told my 10-year-old, who's really into podcasts, that I was recording a podcast today, he looked at me like starstruck.
Really?
Yeah, so he can't wait. So I do the school runs, which is part of kind of my routine, part of my commitment. And so we listen to podcasts, and he's excited to listen to it. So I need to say something meaningful.
Because I do want to, I know you suggested this, but like, I really want to delve in with this, is like, because from 2016 to now, 8 years, you've like, it must have been a complete, well, it still is, I'm sure, a wild ride of the growth. And they were just talking about with Mike earlier on the episode about going from you and John and whoever joins initially to then all of a sudden having 50 staff. And that's the thing in its own, alongside all of the other things you will be managing and doing. But then on top of that, having a family alongside it, like, how is that? I mean, the question, how has it been? I'm sure it's been tricky at times, but just like, are there things you've put in place to make sure the two both get enough attention, or is it one has to get attention at one point, or like, how do you manage all of that? Because I often think, okay, well, I've just got Ralph, my dog. Like, I can't imagine doing what I'm doing and having all these other responsibilities.
Yeah, I think having a young family has been amazing, and I think it's been a real blessing to have children, and I've learned so much from my children. And it's one of the things when it gets tough that keeps you going, because you do what you do for your family. And you can learn a lot from kids about business.
Really?
Like, I tell you what, kids are amazing negotiators. Amazing. So it's like, can I have this? No, you can't have that. Oh, please, can I have it? No, you can't. Oh, but why? It's like, the constant wearing you down. It's like they're master negotiators. So like you can apply that in business, right?
Yeah.
Be persistent.
Always follow up. Keep on with the follow up.
Keep on. Just wear people down. And this is a bit cringe, but we kind of have like our family board meeting on a Sunday, and it's really more of a family bollocking where I just, it's like, what's going on with the homework? What's going on with the guitar? And they hate it, but it's kind of a fun thing. But it's great as well because I want my children to see the hard work that goes into accomplishing something.
Yeah,
and it's great to be able to role model that and instill those values into my children. And then, as I say, when it gets tough, if I come home and I've just had such a hard day, as we just have those days. And you just think, it's just tough. And, you see your children and you just think, yeah, that's why I do it. And it just keeps you going. And you just think, you get up the next day and you just find that energy and you find that strength to keep on going because you do it because you want to give them a better future. And I think you mentioned fostering. We fostered kind of before I set up the business somewhat unusually in my 20s. Well, I got married at 22 and we just had the capacity and space to do that. And my parents were foster carers. And so it was something that kind of was passed down in that regard. And it was just great to meet so many fantastic young people. Something I'm really passionate about now. And another reason why I want the business to succeed is so that we can sort of help young people and help young people to get into entrepreneurship and that sort of thing. It's a bit of a passion.
Because you are creating is it a charity or is it like a
it's just an initiative, I guess. Yeah,
right,
so just an initiative where we can sort of go into schools and raise aspirations through entrepreneurship. And I think we've just got so many great people in our team, and I'd love them to be able to share their stories and inspire young people. But just kind of that whole fostering experience really helps me to just put life in perspective, not take things for granted, and kind of just give us a deeper purpose than just kind of making profit to do what we do.
Yeah. Well, so has it been difficult to for want of a better word, split time and energy and attention between Wizu, which is like a baby in itself, isn't it? Like you're having to grow it and your family. Like I for a long time, Nigel Bottle's been one of my mentors, and he always had one like phrase to himself because he has got like 4 children, a business, lots of things going on, a wife, and he's like he realised that he couldn't be good at business, his children, and be a husband at the same time at all 3 things. So he just like to keep his own sanity. He had to say, well, today I am focused on my wife and kids, or today I'm focused on the business. He didn't feel like he could be good at all 3 things constantly all the time. So it was like, well, I'm just going to do this one thing really well today. Like, how have you managed attention and time between the 2?
Yeah, it's increasingly difficult in a world where there's so many things vying for our attention, and everything wants our attention and wants to distract us. There's no formula, and the way I imagine it, and I'm sure I've nicked this from a business book, but it's like a stream that flows, and you've got like rocks in the stream, and if you put the big rocks in, the water flows around the big rocks, and I think those big rocks are those priorities. And we talk. Your podcast is called The Fun Stuff, and I think that's kind of synonymous with, in my view, like doing the right stuff. Because I think by definition, if you do the right stuff, you have fun.
Totally.
If the right priorities are in place, you have fun. So with family, it's very much about. We have this sort of saying, don't we? It's a bit of a cliche: family first. But it really is, and I think if for me, I really have those non-negotiables around my wife, my children. I don't miss important things in my kids' diaries. So assemblies, sports day, I'll go on school trips if parents can go. I do the school run pretty much every day.
Wow.
And because I put those kind of big rocks in place, the rest of my life kind of flows around it. I think it's really important to spend time being a good husband, because my wife supports me so much to do what I do. As you can imagine, it's incredibly busy, and she is always the one that is sort of dealing with all the logistics and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, it's really important to not take that for granted and spend time and input into your spouse or partner, whatever. And then I think kind of just prioritizing family and friends. So I think on this journey, what I've observed is that people get to the end of the business journey and the business has taken so much out of them, and that by the time they exit or they move on or they do whatever, they've got nothing left. Yeah. And so learning that lesson from people that I've seen who've been really miserable at the end of this journey, it made me recognize that I needed to invest in important relationships as we go along. And I think one of those relationships has been my parents as well. And I think there's been times where, you know, you just get sucked in, don't you, to work, and like I say, everything wants your attention and you're distracted, and when you're with people, you're not really with people, and you're on your phone and all that kind of stuff, which isn't healthy and doesn't communicate that you value those relationships. And there's been times where I've had to sit down with my parents and reaffirm my love and care for them. And those moments have been really pivotal, and they help me to kind of maintain a sense of who I am. Because what I find is when I start to not enjoy life and businesses, when I start to lose that sense of who I am, it's like you can sort of like feel yourself evaporating. Yeah, totally. And so I find that kind of that personal life is really that anchor that keeps me, you know, who I am. Because I think the most important question for me is not so much, you know, what am I achieving? It's what am I becoming?
Oh my God, I love that.
And that's kind of that's a really important question for me. So I think kind of having your non-negotiables, I know it's a cliche, but honestly, having those non-negotiables around time with children, parents, family, friends, partner, your health, all of that stuff that we know, it really is really important. And then I think the other thing is, you know, we talk about our well-being in kind of personally, but I think what does your business well-being look like? Because I know that when I'm not enjoying business, it's usually because something fundamental is out of kilter. And so I think we talked about that kind of journey around kind of having to have that business boot camp, starting with no money and kind of having to build a business. You know, it's like, you know, what about your cash? What about your sales pipeline? How are your team? How are your customers feeling? It's like if you had a great way to do this exercise is like if you imagine you had like 4 hours in a month to spend on your business, what would you do? And the reason that's a good exercise is because it forces you to prioritize what sources of data are important to you, where do you access them, who would you talk to, and what are the kind of red flags in the business? Because I guess this is brilliant, Tom, because I feel like it's going to focus you, because you have a gut feeling if something's off, isn't it, or something's in the back of your mind, whether it's like pipeline or team, and I guess this really forces you to go, what is that thing that needs my attention? Yeah, and it's like it forces you to create the source of, you know, where you go and find that information. So whether it's dashboards, spreadsheets, whatever it is. But if you only had a restricted amount of time to spend on your business, what would you do? And so I think in terms of enjoying your business, you know, nobody likes to have cash flow problems, right? That is like sleepless nights. You can deal with people leaving, you can deal with kind of stuff going on, your customers leaving, all that kind of stuff that happens to us in business. You can deal with it all. The one thing that you really that really keeps you up at night is cash. Totally. And so I think to enjoy your business, you need to be disciplined around getting your house in order. So we talked about, you know, your personal life and getting that in order. But then I think, you know, just go back to basics with business, because running a business, a good business, is like one of the most enjoyable, fulfilling, satisfying, rewarding things you can do. And I think That's the aim. And when that gets clouded, and when you kind of have that cloud above you, then, and sometimes you feel it before you can articulate it.
Yeah.
A lot of the time it's because one of those fundamentals is kind of just is out of kilter. So I would say, you know, get your house in order in your business. You know,
totally.
This is like all this talk at the moment. You know, I see 7-figure business, 8-figure business. It's just like, so what? 7-figure bank balance, that's different.
Yeah.
You know, cash is king. It really is. Everything else is vanity. You know, that is important. What about your team? You know, what about your leadership? How happy are your clients? And we talked about it earlier, sales. What's your pipeline looking like? I mean, I read one of your articles recently, and you made a great point. Something along the lines of, if your business has leads and pipeline, you've got comfort in the future, and it is just so true. So I think getting those really sort of like ABCs dealt with, getting your house in order. The knock-on effect is that you enjoy running your business more, and you feel more free to take a step back, which in turn allows you to get into that thrive cycle of being able to invest in your family and other things outside of work. So it's not easy, and I'm not sitting here saying that I've got it all right. But in terms of how to do the juggling act, I think, you know, those should be the non-negotiables in your business as well.
Yeah, totally. Oh my God, I feel like you've almost like encapsulated how you get to focus on the fun stuff, because there is also so much talk nowadays about, you know, you should just be spending your time on your unique abilities in the business. You know, you should just be doing the things that you love and outsourcing everything else, which, yeah, we want to get to that point of doing the things that we love. But you have just totally nailed the fact that to be able to do that, you need to get these absolute non-negotiables sorted, don't you? Because ignoring or kind of thinking it will sort itself out, or I feel like a lot of business owners can do, because they just so much want to do, you know, the creative stuff or the new ideas, or whereas actually this like baseline, maybe it's not sexy to a lot of business owners, but it's the stuff that lets you sleep at night, isn't it?
And, you know, I don't want to run my business having to talk about money all the time. You know, I'd really like to focus on the fun stuff, the marketing, the branding, the tech, all the ideas and things like that. But to do that, you kind of have to be diligent and disciplined. I think discipline is not something we talk about a lot in business. You've got to be disciplined. You know, as your business grows, you've got to keep an eye on costs. You've got to make sure that people follow process. I'm not good at systemization and process. So understanding what your strengths and weaknesses are as an owner is incredibly important, because you need to bring people in that complement your strengths and weaknesses. So being able to put in those processes and systems and things that allow you to scale and maintain culture and all of that kind of stuff allows you to do that stuff that makes it fun. Because your business should be fun.
It should be.
You know, your business should be rewarding and enjoyable, and it's an incredible thing to do, is to run a business. It is one of the best things I've done in my life, and it's also incredibly hard when it's tough.
It's hard. I saw your LinkedIn post, as I mentioned the other way, about the team day that you had. Was it in the summer? Where you took everybody away, and you did put in that particular caption around about, I think it was that and another one as well, where there's like this journey that we're on. And I think that you've got like a core team as well that have been with you from the beginning. And you said something like the memories and like the things we're going to have together, like cohesively, of what we've been through, what we've achieved. Like, it's very difficult, I feel like, to replicate that in anywhere else in life. It's such an unusual experience, isn't it?
There's just moments where, so we went on this team day, and we hired this kind of boutique hotel, and it was great because we could make as much noise as we wanted. And we've got a very lively team, and we hired this band in, and they did this like 90s rave set.
Really?
As part of their sort of like, as part of their sort of set. And like, it was just like everyone was on the dance floor, glow sticks, and like literally there was just not one person in the room that just wasn't having good fun. And I kind of just had to stop myself and be like, just take in this moment. Like, all of these people didn't know each other 5 years ago, and it was just that kind of kind of just pause and just recognize what's been built, and kind of something that kind of I wanted to etch into my memory. So in years to come, when I'm old and all that kind of stuff, you know, I can just look back and think, yeah, that was just an amazing journey, an amazing moment in time, an amazing memory. And it's just lovely to be able to sort of create a business and a space where, you know, people become friends, and, you know, you see people posting stuff on LinkedIn. It's like, oh, my bestie at work has been promoted today, all that kind of stuff. And it's lovely to be able to have that impact on people's lives.
Yeah.
And it's really special, something we don't often think about.
No, totally. It's the fact that you like take a step back and look, because I think a lot of us just, we're on to the next thing and on to the next thing and on to the next thing. And it is really important as well to give yourself grace, isn't it? And to think, gosh, wow, this is a moment today. Like, I've done a lot, I've achieved a lot. Look at the team I've assembled, and just give yourself that credit that we don't often do as business owners.
Yeah, it also keeps you going in the tough times, because look, every business will hit tough times. I think one of the ways to kind of strategies that I use to kind of get through those times, that time of overwhelm and those difficult periods, is to kind of just look back at the journey and think, gosh, you know, this is how far we've come. And look at all the great things look at the way that people's lives have been influenced and improved, and opportunities people have had, and how much they enjoy coming to work, and enjoy sort of meeting our clients and members and things like that, the friendships that have been formed, and kind of just looking back and going, yeah, just take a breath. And kind of, there's a great quote in Rocky where he just says, like, you know, the thing that makes a difference is that willingness to get up and go in the ring one more time. And I always sort of remember that and think, yeah, you know, those are the moments where I just think, yeah, it's just get up and get into that ring just one more time, have that fight, because business is tough. It's a fight every day. You're out there, you're fighting to survive, aren't you?
Yeah. And in those moments when you think this is the worst moment ever, the following week you can have that moment. It's like, we're absolutely on top of the world, isn't it? And then, like, because that's really important, I feel like, to just go, I just want, like, get back up and go on, because these things, they never in the main last forever, do they? It's like one day you can feel like it's about to end, the next day it's like we're about to take over the world.
Yeah. On the mountaintop or in the valley.
Yeah, totally.
Sometimes you can go through it in the space of an hour or a day as well.
Absolutely. And one thing I just wanted to pull back to, because I feel like what you said about your, like, the time that you spent with your parents, I feel like the thing that's really coming across to me is that you just made a choice. Like, you have decided to go on, no, it's not going to be all consuming my business. I am also going to make these non-negotiables. And I feel like what you said earlier is really, really powerful, because we can just go, well, I need to stay later, and I need to just keep clearing this inbox down, or I need to get back to this message that I've had on my phone. Or I feel like you are really doing a great job, it seems, of going, no, like, I also want to do this, and I also want to spend, like, this year, one of my goals is the wrong word, but one of my intentions with a coach that I'm working with is I want to be more intentional with my parents and spend time with them. And I mean, we're all not getting any younger, but, like, I'm very aware that, because they're so, like, we know you're busy, we know you've got things to do, don't worry, love, like, but actually time's going by, and one day I will go, wow, wish I had rung my dad back, or wish I had, like, made some plans at the weekend. And that is a particular thing for me this year that I want to make sure I don't slip back into, oh, well, it's a week's gone by and I've not spoke to them. But I just am really, really aware there that you've actually just gone, I'm just making a choice here. Yeah,
do you know, it's been one of the most kind of powerful things, really, in my life has been to kind of just kind of grow close with my parents. Kind of makes you emotional, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, totally.
So
I think, especially as we're probably at a similar age, like, as you get older and you see your parents getting older, I know there's been a few moments for me where I've, like, seen them and, like, oh my gosh, they are getting older. They're not, do you know? And now I'm taking more of a role of, right, don't worry, let's sort this out, let's do that. And it is emotional for sure. It
really is. And, you know, I'm part of, like, a sort of peer mentoring group, and you know, you kind of all bring issues and problems, and people help. And one day I just brought this issue to the group, and I said, I feel like I'm growing more distant from my parents. And it just stopped everyone dead in their tracks. But the conversation that was had off the back of it was just
really
so moving. Yeah, people crying, all sorts of stuff. It was just like, these are the things that make us who we are. And just practically how that's played out for me, I think family life is busy, and you can get to that stage where you know, your parents just there and they're dropping the kids to school and picking up and, you know, filling in the gaps for you. And, you know, parents do that.
That is exactly mum and dad filling in the gaps, yeah.
And, you know, I'm not perfect at it. So, you know, I've definitely been through periods and phases where I've not been good at it. But I think recognising that we were growing apart was the first thing. And being intentional around kind of wanting that relationship. As you say, you see your parents getting older, and you think, this is, you know, it's not going to last forever. This is the reality. You know, I just sat down with my parents, and it's probably one of the most powerful things, really, on my journey. And I just said, look, I know you see how busy I am, and I said, I feel that, you know, maybe you don't call me because you think I'm too busy. You don't come over as often and all that kind of stuff. And I said, I know you love me and you're always there, but I just said, you know, I want you to know that you're the most important people in my life alongside my wife and children. And it was just like such a powerful moment where just like reaffirm that love for them. And it was a really emotional sort of thing. And I just wanted to tell them, look, I still love you, and it's emotional thinking about it. And you're always important to me, and no matter how busy I am, I'm here for you. And it was it kind of took our relationship to a different place, really. And you know, since then we've got some beautiful buildings. We've been blessed with some great buildings, and you know, I take them round and I talk to them about what's going on. And when it's tough, you know, my dad has, you know, often just stood with me in one of the buildings. He put his arm around me and said, you know, it'll be fine. Everything will be fine. And sometimes you just need that.
Yeah.
Like, and no one can give you that apart from your parents.
Totally.
So that's been a huge.
I like that you actually I'd feel like this will be helpful for so many people, because I think we think about things like that with our parents or even our partner or friends, maybe, because we often let a lot of personal relationships slide, don't we, as we get into business. But we might think about it and know it, and it makes us feel a bit shitty. But then we won't actually have that kind of conversation like you chose to have, because it feels a bit difficult and. Yeah, you feel bad, and don't know, maybe it just feels difficult to have. But the fact that you had it, I think, God, it's making me think about the conversations I should have with my parents, definitely.
Yeah, and look, you know, if you're out there listening to this, and for you, Emma, as well, I just encourage you, just go and do it.
Yeah.
Like, it's just one regret you don't want to have.
Absolutely.
You know, quite shortly after that, my dad suffered with some ill health, and by God's grace, he's fully recovered and stuff. But man, I'm so glad that I sat down and had that conversation. And put the first things first. Get those things right, and the kind of rest will flow.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
and I think we are like drawing to the end of our time together. And Tom, this has been unbelievable. I've learned things from you here, and that have just been, I'm going to go away and think about and implement myself. Like, just because your business is big, and you've done it in a relatively short period of time. And I just want to, you know, were you very intentional at the beginning about the people that you got around you? Because you don't have like all of these different locations and 55 staff now, and without thinking about quite clearly, well, I know, do you know, like, were you quite intentional about who you got around you as a team to start to leverage you so that you can be with your parents and with your wife? And
yeah, so I mean, I've never run a business at this scale before.
Yeah,
so
I do feel like you've gone from 0 to 100
yeah,
quite
and
quickly.
you know, my business partner John, he's a bit older than me. That is just the truth. It's the reality. Sorry, John, but you are. So he's kind of got some experience, but I have never sort of been CEO of a business, founder of a business. And so, hey, look, you make it up as you go along,
For
right?
Sure.
But I think if we've done one thing well, it is that we do have a knack for choosing good people. So generally, like the biggest bit of feedback we get about the business is just how great the people are. And I guess just understanding what it is you're looking for people. We often think about it as kind of what DNA are we looking for? Getting good at seeing past the veneer that people often sort of put forward initially, getting beneath that and seeing the real person. I'm not a fan of people that interview really polished. I actually, because I actually really like people that are a bit rough around the edges, because I think actually it's a bit more real.
Yeah.
And I'm not getting the gloss.
Yeah.
So there's little things like that. Just kind of really being clear about what skills we need at any one time. I think one of the big pivotal moments for us was kind of hiring our senior leadership team, because I did get to a place where I was burnt out and I wasn't being true to myself and I wasn't spending time with my family and doing those things. And I think I got to a place where I realised that I just can't carry on wearing every hat.
Yeah.
And bringing in kind of Chris, who's now our COO, that was a huge moment. I didn't have a formula for it. A lot of what you do in business is very much, you kind of feel it.
Yeah, for sure.
You feel it. And look, I've got plenty of hires wrong as well. And you get better as you do more. But that was a really pivotal time. And then being able to sort of have, John and I have always sort of had the, what's been really nice is that the business has always been founder led. And when people feel connected to the founders, there's just I just feel like you get a different level of engagement.
Yeah. Yeah.
People they don't just work for a great business, they work for you. And that's really powerful. And as you grow, it's like, how do you maintain that?
Yeah.
So the tension there is, how do you maintain that founder-led kind of DNA and thing that makes your business special while growing it, and then ultimately realizing that the business has to outgrow you as founders? And I think that's where kind of getting the right leadership team in place that kind of reflect your values, but also bring, a diversity of skills and opinions and all of that kind of stuff. But they're ultimately kind of on board with embracing the fact that everyone has to own the culture. Everyone has to be an evangelist for the culture and protect it. And I think as you grow a business and you have those people that have been alongside you for 4, 5, 6 years, they become protective of the culture and they almost become your ambassadors, and they take people under their wing and they grow the new people that are coming in. And then, we've been very deliberate around connecting with people. So I've always had a view that no matter how big the business gets, I will always connect with every individual. And that's on multiple layers, from team days to going round each building once or twice a year, doing a floor walk, sitting down with everyone, no matter who they are, giving them the time, listening, just sitting there with a notepad and actually listening to what they're saying. It's just so powerful, and it's amazing the engagement and commitment that elicits from people towards the business. So we've always really tried to be very deliberate about who we hire, look for the right DNA, and really just maintain a deliberate connection with the people, our team.
That is awesome. Yeah, I know that you, as I said, you've got 55 staff, but you are very present. Not like obviously every day, because that wouldn't be tenable, but the fact that you make specific, right, we're going to do a floor walk day or a team, I'm going to go to a specific location. You make yourself available to still understand what people are thinking, how they're feeling, what's good, what's not so good, and get the feedback on that. Yeah, no, it's fantastic.
I think just being down to earth.
Yeah. Just being you.
Yeah, just I think people have this perception of you as a business owner that, that you're aloof, or that, why are you talking to the cleaner? Or, It's just like, no, you're just a normal person.
Yeah.
People really respect that and resonate with that. And I think they connect with that, and I think it elicits a loyalty that you don't get if you're kind of this removed, kind of aloof individual.
Yeah.
So for us, that's been really powerful, and we just like to be, yes, you know, what we do is important, and we're busy and all of that kind of stuff. But I think we always try to have a presence and connect with people, and that's been really important because it's the thing that resonates through the business.
Tom, we've run out of time, unfortunately. Today has been fantastic. Thank you so much for spending the time to come and share your story and share so much like insightful stuff. I do think will be very, not triggering is the wrong word, but very like in touch with a lot of people who are listening to this today, some topics that we've not talked about before. If people want to connect with you, or if they're in the areas where Wizu are, like how best to find you or the business?
Yeah, so connect on LinkedIn. And businesses, Wizu Workspace, wizuworkspace.com. Have a look, check us out. We're on all the normal social channels. We'd love to connect.
Fab.
Thank you for
very
having
much.
me.
Oh gosh, you're so welcome. Thank you, Tom.